y is equal to ax, where A is a matrix and x and y are the vectors. You must have seen it in your mathematics course. So we have a linear transformation and the matrix is given by this. I have taken an example. If you want to find eigenvalues of this matrix, then this is the characteristic equation. You subtract minus lambda from the diagonal terms and write determinant is equal to 0. If you expand this determinant, this is what you get. Okay, this is just by simple factorization of whatever is coming from here. So what are the eigenvalues? 2 minus lambda is equal to 0 and lambda plus 1 is equal to 0. So lambda is equal to 2 is one eigenvalue and lambda is equal to minus 1 is another eigenvalue. So this lambda is equal to minus 1 has a multiplicity of 2, while lambda is equal to 2 has a multiplicity of 1. I think you understand the multiplicity, because you see here it is lambda plus 1 into lambda plus 1. So you get lambda is equal to minus 1 as eigenvalue twice. Now characteristic vector corresponding to lambda is equal to 2. Now we want to find the eigenvector corresponding to lambda is equal to 2. So we put the value lambda is equal to 2 in this equation. So you get 6, 0, minus 12 in the diagonal. Rest of the terms are same. Into this vector xyz is equal to 0 vector. Now you solve for these xyz. So they will give you eigenvectors. Now you see this matrix has a 0 determinant. So only two equations at the most will be linearly independent. You see you add the first two rows, what do you get? 9, 9, 12. You apply a minus sign. So you see third equation is a linear sum of first two equations. So this is dependent equation. It is not giving you any new equation. So first two rows give you 6x plus 9y plus 9z is equal to 0. This will come out to be 2x plus 3y plus 3z is equal to 0. Second equation gives you 3x plus 3z is equal to 0, or x plus z is equal to 0. So you have got two equations. So this equation gives x is equal to minus z. So if you put y as 1 here, you will find the value of x and z, because x is equal to minus z, and you will find that your xyz vector can be written as 3, 1, minus 3. You see, if you sum these three x and z, you get a 0. And here, if you put these values, 2 into x is 6, plus 3 into 1 is 3, 9. 6 plus 3, 9. Minus 3 into 3 is 0. So this, if you put these values x, y, z, your both equations are satisfied. So you can say u is equal to a into 3, 1, minus 3. So a is a constant multiplier factor. So you can say eigenvector is 3, 1, minus 3 for this case. Okay. And here also lambda was equal to 2 and the multiplicity of the eigenvalue was 1 only. And you got only one eigenvector. Now lambda is equal to minus 1 was an eigenvalue with multiplicity 2. So you again put the value of lambda as minus 1 in this equation. So you see lambda is minus 1, so this will become 9. Lambda is minus 1, this will become 3. And this will become minus 9. So you see 9, 3, minus 9, diagonal terms. Rest are same. X into y into z is equal to 0. Now you see this equation. All these equations are same. You divide by 3, you get this equation. You multiply with minus 1, you get this equation. So you get only one equation of because of from these three equations. X plus y plus z is equal to 0. So this equation has a 2-parameter family of solutions. First equation gave you 1-parameter family of solutions. This is giving you 2-parameter family of solutions. For example, now how can it be satisfied? put z is equal to 0, x is equal to minus y then. So you can write it as 1 minus 1 0. Next time what you make, x has 0, so you get y is equal to minus z. So you get 0 1 minus 1. So you have got two eigenvectors corresponding to this eigenvalue. Okay. So you see, you had three eigenvalues. You had only two independent eigenvalues, but you got three independent eigenvectors. So that way, this is a well-behaved system. I had talked last time about some imperfect system. So where geometric multiplicity and algebraic multiplicity were not same. So you had only, I will in the next example, I will show what I mean. You see here, this is a matrix. You find the eigenvalues. They are coming as 1 and 2, 2. So here it has a multiplicity of 2. So this is called algebraic multiplicity. Now corresponding to lambda is equal to 1, you will find this is the eigenvector. So I'm not showing how it is calculated. You can do for lambda is equal to 2. So you have to subtract 2 from the diagonal terms. So you get minus 1 double 0. The rest of the terms are same as this. Now you see what are the equations generated. Look at the bottom row. It is not giving you any equation. 0 is equal to 0. 0 into x into 0 into y into 0 into z is equal to 0. So basically 0 is equal to 0. So that is a basic fundamental. That equation is not giving you any information on x, y, z. Look at the second equation. 0x plus 0y into 3z is equal to 0. So it means 3z is equal to 0 means z is equal to 0. So you come to know that z has a 0 value. Now look at the first equation. Minus x plus 2y plus 3z is equal to 0. So z is already equal to 0. So you know x is equal to 2y. This equation gives you x is equal to 2y. So you can write your solution as put y is equal to 1. So x becomes 2, 2 comma 1 comma 0. So you get only one eigenvector. For eigenvalue lambda is equal to 2. So you got only two eigenvectors. So in this case, your eigenvectors cannot become the basis vector for a 3D space. This matrix was defined for a 3D space for XYZ system, XYZ coordinate system. So it had got its basis vectors as x-axis corresponding to x-axis, y-axis, z-axis. 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1. But now you have found eigenvectors, only two eigenvectors. So you know two eigenvectors cannot map 3D space. They can map only a plane. So this way you say you have not got a perfect system of eigenvectors. I had used some term last time. You look at that. Vijendra Prasad, any problems?
No, sir.
You know how to now calculate eigenvector? Students often make a mistake in calculating eigenvectors. Okay, so I have shown you some examples. Now, the matrices I had taken in the last slide, they were not symmetric matrices. Okay, you look at them. I have given already uploaded the files on your Google Drive. Now, if the matrices are symmetric, so these are some observations. All characteristic values, I mean eigenvalues, of a real symmetric matrix are real. Number 2, eigenvectors corresponding to different eigenvalues of a real symmetric matrix are orthogonal. So here, if you have a real symmetric matrix, your eigenvectors will be orthogonal, meaning they will be perpendicular to each other. In the last slide, whatever eigenvectors we got, they need not be orthogonal. For a symmetric matrix, there is an orthogonal matrix P such that P into the actual matrix into P transpose is equal to diagonal matrix. With diagonal matrix, with diagonal elements, are the characteristic values of A. So diagonal elements are basically eigenvalues of A. What is an orthogonal matrix? Orthogonal matrix inverse is its transpose. So here when I write P transpose is nothing but P inverse. So this is the property of orthogonal matrices. Their rows and columns are, if you take the columns, their dot product with each other will be 0. Similarly, rows, their dot product with each other will be 0. Only with itself it will give a unit value if it is a unit orthogonal matrix. Unit orthogonal matrix means each eigenvector you have converted into a unit vector. Now I will show you some examples of this approach. How it is used. Suppose you are given this equation. You want to identify whether it is a parabola, hyperbola, ellipse. How do you do it? One thing is there, this is a quadratic form. Left hand side is a quadratic form. What is the meaning of a quadratic form? You see each term of this equation. Each term of this equation is a quadratic term. X square. So there is a power of 2 for x. X into y. Sum the powers of x and y, you get 2. 1 and plus 1, 2. Y square. Again, you see power is 2. So all terms of the left side are having power 2. Suppose you had added plus 2x, then it would not have been a quadratic form. Or had you taken this plus 5 on the left hand side, then the left hand side is not a quadratic form. So quadratic form q of this for this equation can be written as qx comma y is this. So this quadratic form you can write as x transpose ax. Look at this x transpose ax. So what is your x here? Only x and y. You are having only xy coordinates. This is a plane curve. So you will write x comma y as a row vector here. And here you will write x comma y as a column vector. If you multiply the entire thing, you will get this equation. Vijendra Prasad, can you see how this equation will come from this expansion? If you expand this term, xt ax, you will get this equation. Can you see?
नहीं सर, इसमें क्लियर नहीं हो रहा.
What I suggest all of you, you write this matrix. You take a pen and paper, put x and y here as a row vector and x and y here as a column vector and expand it. Simple matrix multiplication. And you will find that this product of three matrices is equal to this. Check it out fast. Anyone who has finished it?
Yes, sir. आ रहा है, sir.
आ रहा है ना?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is a very simple stuff. Look at this matrix. This quadratic form will be given as this term, and you see this term is A11. So you will say A11 into x1 into x1. So you get A11 into x1 square. So you see here it is x square. This is A12. This matrix term is having a nomenclature A12. So A12 means A12 into x1 x2. So that is 2 into x1 x2, but 2 into x into y. Look at this term. This is A21. So twice into x2 into x1, or twice into x into y. So you're summing it up. So it becomes 4xy. Similarly here, minus 2. This term is A22. So minus 2 into x2 into x2. So that is minus 2 into y square. So you can write this expansion as Aij xi xj. You see, Aij xi xj is the Einstein notation for writing this. Both I and j are repeating. So it is a sum of, if it is a I and j go from 1 to 2, it will be a sum of 4 terms. If I and j go from 1 to 3, so it will be a sum of 9 terms. Aij xi xj. So xt ax is equal to 6. You can write like this. Now this a, you can find the eigenvalues. Eigenvalues are lambda 1 is equal to lambda is equal to 2 and lambda is equal to minus 3. Corresponding eigenvectors you can find. These are the corresponding eigenvectors. Now you can write this equation as eigenvalue is 2 into x prime square minus 3 into y prime square is equal to 6. Right hand side remains as such, and this equation you have transformed into this form, where you have got x prime, y prime as some transformed variables. I'll show you what are these. So you see, this equation looks like an equation of a hyperbola. You can write it like divide by 6 on both sides. This is the way you see equation of a hyperbola looks like. So using these eigenvectors, you can define a matrix P. First eigenvector you write in the row, second eigenvector you write another second row. So this is your matrix P. So you can define a new variable x prime as px. Okay. So this P you use, and this was the original xy coordinates, and these will be the new coordinates x prime y. So I have shown here the new coordinates x prime y prime. These vectors you can write like cos theta, sin theta, minus sin theta, cos theta. So first row multiply with this is giving you x prime direction. Second row is giving you y prime direction. So you have transformed the coordinates. So you have got a new coordinate system instead of xy, x prime, y prime, given by this transformation. Okay. So here you have used x prime as px. So what will be your x? X will be p inverse x prime. P inverse here is P transpose. So instead of x, you write P transpose y. This is a new transformed variable. For x prime I was using. Here I had called it x prime. Instead of x prime, you could have called it y. So your x is what? P transpose y. So you take its transpose. Instead of x, again you write P transpose y. This will become y transpose into P. A P transpose y. So P transpose, you will find it is equal to diagonal matrix. So Y transpose dy. So your this original quadratic form will be written like this. So this is a diagonal form. Off diagonal terms are 0. So you will get that this equation will have only diagonal terms. So what will be there? Diagonal terms are what? D11, D22, D33. So you will get D11 y1 square plus D22 y2 square plus D33 y3 square. So here you are having y vector. Earlier you were having x vector and your A was full. Here D is diagonal. So you see you get only such an equation. Your product terms in x and y are not there. So you have got new variables x prime, y prime, where this equation takes a standard canonical form. These are known as canonical forms. This is a standard form of a hyperbolic curve. And here you cannot identify whether this curve is a parabola, ellipse, or hyperbola. But here you can identify. So this approach helps you in finding whether this equation is a parabola, hyperbola, or ellipse. Vijendra Prasad, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we go to finding a solution of following system of differential equations. So you are given a system of differential equations. Now you see what is the problem with this set of differential equations. If you want to find x1, it depends on all x2 and x3. You want to find x2, depends on them. So what we want to do, we want to have a independent set of system equations where we have a variable which depends only on itself. Like what we did here. We want to diagonalize the system. You see, this equation can be written as x prime is equal to ax. So what is your x? x1, x2, x3. X prime is derivatives. So x prime is equal to this ax. A is nothing but 2, 3, 3, 3, minus 1, 0. 3 is 0, minus 1. Vijendra Prasad, do you see what I did? I wrote these three equations.
Yes, sir.
In this matrix form. Okay. Now I will find the eigenvalues of this matrix A. So it has got three different eigenvalues. Correspondingly, I will find eigenvectors. So I got eigenvectors. Now I will use the same trick. I will transform this x to y like I did here. I replaced x, y, p transpose y. Okay. So if you write as p transpose y derivative. So what you will get? P transpose is a constant stuff. So you get P transpose into y prime is equal to A. Instead of x here, what you will do? Again, you will write P transpose y. Now, what do you do? Multiply this side with P. So here you are writing P transpose. Here you multiply with P. So here what will be left with? PA P transpose. PA P transpose will give you a diagonal matrix. And here on the left hand side, you will just get your y prime. So y prime is equal to diagonal matrix into y. So simpler diagonalization process we will do. And what we will get? We will get equations like this. Your new system is dy1 by dt lambda 1 y1, dy2 by dt lambda 2 y2, dy3 by dt lambda 3 y3. So you can get your y1. If you solve this equation, y1 is equal to some constant into an exponential function. Have you seen this equation, this kind of equation? dy by dt is equal to y. If you put y is equal to exponential of lambda t, this equation will be satisfied. Okay, these equations have exponential solutions. You look at it again. You just do a simple substitution, and you will see that this is getting satisfied. So you have decoupled the equations. This is your new system is decoupled, and you have solved them now easily. Okay, but you want to get your x solution. What is your x? X is given as PTY. So this is your P matrix consists of these eigenvectors. Okay, so you use PTY. So your x will become PTY into these y's. Your x is PT into your y solutions. Your y solutions are what? E minus t, E minus 4t, E 5t. Okay. Now you use these things. So this vector, this matrix into your y solution. So what is your x vector is equal to P matrix into y. So you see here, your first solution y1 will multiply with 0 and it is not contributing. Then there is a minus 1 and your second solution is E minus 40. Then plus 2 into E5t. Similarly, what will be your x2? 1 into E minus t plus 1 into E minus 4t plus 1 into E5t. Similarly, x3 minus 1 into E minus t plus 1 into E minus 4t plus 1 into E5t. You can just do it if you just try to do what I am saying. So you have got your solution of original variables in terms of the independent solution you solved. Now you are given some initial condition. At time t is equal to 0, your x1, x2, x3 were these. So you write here your x vector. And you see, you know these values of at t is equal to 0. So you have to solve these constants, coefficients. Okay. So you write it in a matrix form. So C1, C2, C3 comes from the right hand side. So C1 is not equal to here, so it's 0, minus 1, 2. And from here 1, 1, 1. From here minus 1, 1, 1, 1. So you have got a set of linear equations. You can solve them. So you have solved you got your solution using these initial conditions. Vijendra Prasad, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Look, what we did, we decoupled the differential equations using this eigenvector approach. We found a new set of variables which had decoupled equations. Once we had decoupled solutions, then we again use the transformation to get the initial solution in terms of the initial variables. Okay. So this is a very fundamental approach. This slide I have already uploaded on your Google Drive. You look at it, so you will know how to solve coupled differential equations. So this is what I started with initially. Okay. So this is a linear hyperbolic system, derivative with time plus some matrix into ux. So these u's are vectors. This may be some density, velocities. So this is not just a single variable. It is a vector of, okay. So that is why your A is a matrix. Had it been only a single variable, it would have been a simple constant. So here your A can depend on. So these are coupled differential equations. Like I did for you, a coupled differential equations. So these are also coupled differential equations. So you want to diagonalize this matrix A so that your equations can become independent. They become decoupled. So again, you write your A as this matrix. Like we did, find eigenvalues, eigenvectors. You can write it like this. So your matrix, this equation is same as this. You multiply it by the R here. So it becomes A into R lambda. So your matrix R was this, eigenvectors written as columns. So AR is equal to R lambda. If you expand this, you will get A into RP is equal to lambda P RP. So you get these are eigenvector statements. Okay. So this system is called strictly hyperbolic if eigenvalues are distinct. So if you multiply this equation 1 by R inverse, so R inverse ut plus lambda R inverse 1 ux. Since R inverse is a constant, you can write it as Vt plus lambda Vx. So you have defined V as R inverse U. So you see you have decoupled the equations. Now V and V, these equations are all decoupled. So V is different from original set of variables. So you have transformed these variables using this R matrix. So since V is diagonal, this lambda is diagonal, this decouples into M independent scalar equations. So these are your different scalar equations. So this V is a vector here. So we are writing in Vp, P is equal to 1 to M instead of V. So individual equations we are writing from, picking from this lambda P plus Vpx. If you just try to see from here, you can see this is nothing but a set of equations. And here I have written them individually. So solution of this equation is, if you go to the previous lecture, you will find I have done solution of these equations. Okay, these are the linear advection equations. So this lambda is the advection velocity. So these are given by simple solution of this kind. Whatever is the initial solution, that is carried along the characteristic lines, and it remains same along the characteristic lines if your lambdas are constant. Okay. So once you have got these solutions, you can again go back to your original solution using the transformation. Okay. You had used this transformation, V is equal to R inverse U. So what will be U? U will be equal to RV. So use this transformation to get back to your solution of original variables. Also, initial data for Vp is given to you. You can find initial data for U is given. So you can find for V using this transformation. So you find that your solution is R into V, and you have found the solution for V as this. You put it here. So you have found your solution for your original variables in terms of the transformed variables. Okay. So the whole exercise was for decoupling the differential equations. So here I have just taken an example. I've taken a wave equation. This is second derivative of displacement is equal to c square, second derivative of with position with x. And this is our domain is from minus infinity to plus infinity. This is an equation for a string. If you have a string, if you have an initial displacement, initial velocity, you can solve for this, you can find the solution for these initial data. Boundary conditions are not there because the string is going from minus infinity to plus infinity. This is what we have taken in this case. So you will assume that these are radiation boundary conditions I had explained. So the solution is going to 0 at infinity at the far ends. If it was a bounded domain, like from 0 to 1, for example, then you will have to give boundary conditions at the ends. Okay, either you have to give displacement or you have to give derivative of displacement. Okay, Something will be required there. So you can write this equation as a system of conservation laws. First order system. You see, this is a second order system. Double derivatives are there. So previously, whatever machinery we built was for a set of equations having first order derivative. So we'll try to write these equations as a system of first order differential equations. So we define a variable v, which is for derivative of u with respect to x, and another variable w, time derivative of u. Okay, so we have defined two new variables. Now you see, if you take its derivative with time and its derivative with x, it should be same because mixed partials are equal. Either you take a derivative with x first or with t first, mixed partials will be equal. So that is one essential condition for the continuity of the derivatives. So this one equation gets generated by simple this equality, and your first equation becomes, now your ut is equal to w. So wt is equal to c square, ux is vx. So this is one equation. So these two equations, vt is equal to wx, wt is equal to c square vx, you write in matrix form. So v and w, time derivative with t is equal to w c square v derivative with x. You can write the entire thing in matrix form as this. So vw here, you write vw here, and you can write it this term as this. So this becomes your A matrix now. You see, this the A matrix we saw in the last slide. So this is your u variable plus A, u with derivative with x. So we have got the same form. So this matrix A is given as this. Initial conditions you are given. Here you are given initial conditions. U is equal to 0. So what is the value of V? Take its derivative with x. So your V becomes at t is equal to 0 as u naught prime x. U naught prime means derivative of u naught with x. Similarly, your w is u2, so w is equal to u1x. So initial conditions for w and v are given like this. So initial conditions of v and w, I just explained how we calculate from the initial data. Now we find eigenvalue of these matrix. You will find that eigenvalue become plus minus c, and we get the eigenvectors corresponding to these plus minus c, as these are the eigenvectors. So we can define a matrix R as we put these eigenvectors in the columns of this matrix. So our y is given as our transformed variables will be R inverse of this VW. So this we put the R inverse of this matrix. This matrix R inverse will be given by this, what I can show here. So this is not a symmetric matrix. This is not an orthogonal matrix. So its R inverse is not R transpose. So you have to calculate it. So after calculation of R inverse, you get this. So you expand this. So you see your y is new y are this v minus w by c, v plus w by c. So your new transformed variables are these, which will have a diagonal, which will be decoupled, which will have decoupled differential equations. Okay. So similarly, you have got vw as given by r into y. Y is this what you calculated. Now you will see this was your original equation. VWT. So instead of VWT, you write RYT plus 0, this matrix. Instead of this, you write RYX. VW you replace with RY. Now you multiply with R inverse. So this goes away. R inverse, this matrix into R is equal to this. This matrix you will find is diagonalized, having eigenvalues. C is minus C. Okay. So this y is nothing but you calculated here. You replace it, and this y you have calculated here. You replace. So these equations are now decoupled because this matrix is not having off diagonal terms are having R zeros. So you get the equations. So these solutions you already know. These are like advection equations, linear advection equations. So V minus W by C is equal to V minus W by C for position x minus ct, comma t is equal to 0. So whatever the solution at t is equal to 0, that is valid along this characteristic line given by x is equal to ct. So this is a forward going solution. So this you can write as, now V, you just expand this, V minus W by C. So you have to write value of V at x minus ct minus W by C at x minus ct. So what is V? At time t0, we found that it was u naught prime. So this becomes u naught prime x minus ct minus 1 by c. And what is the value of w at x minus ct? At time t is equal to 0, it was u1. So there, here we have written vx comma 0 is u naught prime, wx comma 0 is u1x. So we are using those initial conditions to find the solution at time x and t, at position x and t. Similarly, for this differential equation, second differential equation, there is a solution. V plus W by C is equal to, you just check out, U naught prime x plus Ct plus 1 by C U1 x plus Ct. So this is the U1 for this form, x plus Ct. You have to put the value of x and t, you will get the value of U naught prime. So this is not a product, this is a function of x plus Ct. So you sum these two equations, so you can cancel out W, you get the value of V as this sum. Similarly, you subtract, you will get this. So you have solved the value of V and W. You could solve it because you diagonalized and made them as decoupled equations. Now you have got VW. So these VW you have calculated. Since you know V and W, you can find U by an integration process. Okay. So that you do take a look at it at your own hand. Vijender Prasad, is it all right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it is a little heavy. You look at it again. I have already uploaded the files. Now this is something different. So how many of you have you heard of action principle? Something called action principle is there in mechanics. Have you heard of Lagrangian? In mechanics, there is a concept of Lagrangian. Okay, you know Newton's laws of motion. Vijender Prasad. Newton's laws, you know. Savik Samadar. Are you guys there or you have all fainted?
Yes, sir.
How do you solve an equation? How do you find a trajectory of a particle using Newton's laws? Let me know. Suppose I tell you there is a particle of mass m, there is some force applied to it. How do you find its position and velocity with time? You have to speak some rubbish.
So we draw first free body diagram, then we put all the forces. Then in particular direction we take all the forces, mass into acceleration.
Who is it, Savik or Vijendra Prasad?
So begin there.
You are Vijendra. And Mr. Savik,
Yes, sir. We take velocity at maximum height as 0. Then we find the height and distance from
okay,
the
okay. Look how you have a differential equation. Force is equal to mass into acceleration. So you get a second order differential equation. So you have a differential equation d square x by dt square is equal to f by m. So these are basically three differential equations. You have got three position x, y, z. So similarly, you have got force vector fx, fy, fz. So these are decoupled force vectors. You have got three different equations. Mass into second derivative with time of x is equal to force in x direction. Mass into second derivative of y with time is equal to fy. Mass into second derivative of z with time is equal to fz. You know all this. F is equal to ma. So you have got second derivative of x, y, and z with time. And what are your initial conditions? At t is equal to 0, you are given x, y, and z position. You are also given velocity. So that is meaning velocity in x direction, velocity in y direction, velocity in z direction. So you have to, you know the second derivative of velocity. So you can always build up your solution. After time delta t, what will be your velocity? Initial velocity plus acceleration into delta t. Okay. Similarly, you know what will be that position. You all know S is equal to ut plus half at square. So with that kind of an approach, you can build the solution with time. So this is your general way of handling a finding trajectory using Newton's second law. Newton's second law gives you acceleration. You are already knowing initial position and velocity. You can build up the solution with time. Okay. Now there is another approach. You are given initial position and final position of the particle. In Newton's method, you will find the final position incrementally. And there is another method where you are given initial and final position. So from one position to another position, your particle goes. Different kind of trajectories are possible. Okay. But you say this initial and final position are defined. Particle goes from here to there. Now you can take any trajectory. I don't mind. But there is a functional which will be minimized or extremized. Then that is the path followed by the actual particle. Okay. You can give it a wavy form. You can give another simple trajectory, parabolic trajectory. You will find that parabolic trajectory gives the minimum value of the function. Others will not give. Only extremum you will be seen for the your function f only by the actual path. So this is one of the theorems which is known as action principle. Okay, you look at it is called principle of least action. You Google it, principle of least action. And what is your action principle? You have defined some integral which will be extremized or minimized by the actual trajectory. Okay. So here I have defined some functional which is a function of x, y, and derivative of y with x. you integrate it from x1 to x2. You have to extremize this I. You have to have a maximum or minimum value of I. You have to find that condition where for which this value of I will be minimum. Okay. How do you go about this process? So this is your actual trajectory, yx. You can define another trajectory, which is this trajectory plus some small parameter epsilon into eta x. Eta x is another function where we say that its value at these ends is 0. So that your actual function satisfies display the boundary conditions. We don't want boundary conditions to be violated. You see, at x1 and x2, your this eta is 0. So your this y cap will be same as y. So your these perturbed, you can say these are kind of perturbation solution, perturbed solutions, different from actual solutions. So these solutions differ from the actual solution by this function eta, and this epsilon is a small parameter multiplying this eta. So if your actual solution is a straight line and this eta is a sine curve, so by changing epsilon you can have different things. One is big, one is small, but at the ends same value has to be there. So this is what you put the conditions on eta. Any problem, Samadhar? Vijendra Prasad, any issue with this? So we want to find our I. We can write function of x comma. What is your y? Y plus epsilon eta. What is your derivative of y? Y prime plus epsilon eta prime. We're taking the derivative with x. Epsilon is a constant, so it will become y prime plus epsilon eta prime. Now you want to find this integral. So you can write this integral as at epsilon equal to 0 plus derivative of this I with respect to epsilon into epsilon plus second derivative. This is nothing but Taylor's theorem. So you have found the value of I for different variations by changing value of epsilon. So you will be able to find some value. You want to see when this value of I bar will be minimum. When will I bar be minimum? Vijendra Prasad? If your I bar is given by this expression, when you will have a minimum value of I bar? You know maximum minima theory?
Yes, sir.
When it will be minimum extremum? What is
Yes,
the condition of extremum?
So differentiation at the point is 0.
So this value should be 0. Otherwise, you cannot have an extrema. If epsilon is positive, okay, then this value will be higher. If epsilon is negative, this value will be lower. So your this I epsilon is equal to 0 cannot be an extreme value. How I epsilon is equal to 0 is an extreme value? When this I bar is higher, suppose this is a minima. Suppose this is a minima. So how can it be higher? Now suppose this epsilon is, now epsilon square is positive. So if this second derivative is positive, this I bar will be always higher if this is 0, first derivative. So you can have a minima for I at epsilon is equal to 0. If this value was non-zero, you have epsilon positive, your I bar will be positive. Suppose this is some positive value. Epsilon you take as negative, this will become reduced. So this I bar will not have your I bar will be at one time greater than this, at one time less than this. So for this to be a minima, this first derivative should be 0. This is all very standard condition for extreme values, for minima or maxima. So your first derivative is 0. So we say for I bar to be extreme when epsilon is equal to 0, this derivative should be 0. If you want this value has to be an extreme value. Now we want to find its derivative with epsilon. We want to find its derivative with epsilon. So you have to take its derivative, del f by del y. How to find this derivative? So you take a derivative with y into derivative of y with epsilon plus derivative of f with y prime into derivative of y prime with del epsilon. Look here, x is an independent variable. Y is the value you want to find. Okay. So you're playing with y. You're varying y using this form. So you want its derivative with epsilon. So you take the derivative with y, then derivative of y with epsilon, derivative of f with y prime with epsilon. And you want to find this value at epsilon is equal to 0. You see all these values are at epsilon is equal to 0. So this will be at epsilon is equal to 0. You want to find the values of I bar using the value of I at 0, derivative at 0. This is standard Taylor's theorem. You look at Taylor's theorem once again. I don't know I did it for you or not, or I will do it. So now, what is derivative of y with epsilon? You see, you wrote your y bar as y plus epsilon eta x. So you want to find the derivative of this equation of y bar with epsilon. So this is the value epsilon multiplying here. So you just get eta. And what is y prime? Y prime is y prime bar is equal to y prime plus epsilon eta prime x. So what is the derivative of y prime bar with epsilon eta prime x? Okay, this is not very tricky. So del y bar by derivative of y bar with epsilon is eta. Derivative of y prime with epsilon is eta prime. So you replace it. You have to take an integral with dx. So this derivative, you take it down as such. Now this derivative of eta, you shift the derivative from eta to, you do the integration by parts. So what do you get? Del f by del y prime. This integral is eta. So these are the limits 1 to 2 minus. Now you have to shift the derivative from here to this term. Eta into dy dx of del f by del y prime. Okay, this is what we used to do. This we had integrated here. Next time we shift the derivative to the other fellow. So you get eta del f by del y minus. Now we have clubbed the terms containing eta. Minus dy dx of del f del y prime dx is equal to 0. So you see this equation, if you want to make it 0, you have to make this derivative 0 to get extrema value of I at epsilon is equal to 0. So this eta is arbitrary. So how can it be 0 if this entire term is 0? So this is known as Euler-Lagrange equation. So you have found a differential equation for your function f. And what are your boundary conditions? You see here. Either eta was 0 at 1 and 2, if you are given the value of eta at 1 and 2, or this value should be 0. So these are your natural boundary conditions. You have to give the derivative of f with y prime at 1 and 2 to be 0, if y1 and y2 are not specified. Similarly, suppose you had an equation, you had a functional given in terms of x, y, y prime, y double prime, y triple prime. Again, you can develop a Euler-Lagrange equation of this kind. You see here, take its derivative with epsilon. It will be of this form. Okay, you've got all derivatives, so you get all these terms. Then again, you do integration by part of this term. Initially, it will be eta. So this is the term it is coming. If you integrate it, eta del f by del y prime, eta del f by del y prime, and here you put the limits. And the second minus eta dy dx of del f by del y prime. Similarly, you do with these terms. So you are generating these terms on this side as the boundary conditions, and again you do an integration. This comes as such. So here again you see a term derivative of eta. You again do integration by parts, and you will shift the derivative to this side. You get a second derivative of this term. So you finally get this kind of an equation. So this is an integral. I have left out the integral here with dx. So how this can be 0 if this term is entire term is 0. So you get a differential equation corresponding to this functional I, and these will form the boundary conditions. You club the terms corresponding to eta, eta, eta. So some of these terms, either eta is 0 or some of these terms is 0. Similarly for derivative eta prime, you club them. Either eta prime is 0 or these terms are 0. Similarly here, either eta double prime is 0 or this term is 0. So these kind of things you will see when you handle equation of a beam. You see that beam has a fourth order partial differential equation. We will show how beam has a fourth order partial differential equation. There, such kind of boundary conditions are there. Vijender Prasad, is it difficult?
Little bit, sir.
You understand a bit of it?
Yes, sir.
Not a big deal. I have already uploaded it. You go through it. Okay. Now I am doing an example for you. Suppose I have given this function. This is known as potential energy function, given by this equation. Can you recognize this equation? Any of you? Can you recognize these terms? What is this term? Can somebody recognize it? Gentlemen, I taught you already theory of bending. You're not revising your notes. So this is strain energy of bending. M square upon 2EI, you must have heard. M square upon 2EI is the strain energy of bending. And that is this expression. So what is your, if you want to take a derivative of this term, del pi is equal to EI, W double prime is this, into delta W double prime. If you take its derivative, it will be twice into this. Then then what is the incremental change? Delta W prime, double prime. And this will be minus Q delta W. Okay. So this is variation in pi. first order variation in pi. So further you can write it as, if you integrate it, ei w double prime. This term, first integral will be del w prime 0 to L minus, you are doing integration by parts. So you have to take its derivative of w double prime, ei w double prime d by dx, this as such. Now these are you take it down as such. Next time again you do integration by parts. This will become del w 0 to L plus, now you have to take derivative of this term, second derivative, delta w. So what is the partial differential equation? You see, this qw delta w integral was already coming. So this plus this. So there was a minus here. So this is their partial differential equation. Your delta w is arbitrary. So this should, to make it 0. So you should have this equal to this. And these are these will give you boundary conditions. Either your delta w is 0 at the ends, or this is the equation that should be satisfied, or your slope is 0, or this should be satisfied. Either slope is 0 or this. Either this is 0 or this derivative should be 0. What is the meaning of this slope is 0 or this? Can you recognize this term ei w double prime? If slope is not given, you have to say movement is 0. This term is nothing but movement, bending movement at the end. If you are not given if your deflection is not given, you have to specify shear force. This is for the shear force. All this I have already taught you guys. You are not keeping up with the things.